Hi, boys and girls. Welcome back. Today, this is our lesson for Tuesday. So if you haven't seen the Monday lesson for reading skills yet, where we learned about character traits, please go back and do that first. If not, you're right where you need to be, and we are ready to get started for our Tuesday lesson for reading skills. And today we are talking about sequence of events. So let's take a look at our target for today. It says, I can decide the sequence of events in a text. So let's go ahead and try that together. Mirror with words. Great. Repeat after me. I can decide the sequence of events in a text. Perfect. So what that means, my friends, is we have to decide what happens first, next, after that, for the whole story. So there can be a lot of events. In the last couple weeks that we've been doing this, we saw that there were like 9 things that happen in a book. So we're going to want to be thinking about the story and the order that things happen. Sequence of events is the order. What happens first, what happens then, what happens next, and so on all the way to the end, to the last event. An event is something that happens in the story. So today we're going to take a look at that, and it's really important that we know about sequence of events and we pay attention to it, because good readers use this information to help them retell a story, and we can better understand what happens in our story when we remember the events and how to retell it. So I was thinking about this when I was cooking dinner last night, and I realized that it was really important while I'm cooking that I add my ingredients in a certain order and that I follow the directions, because if I don't do that, my food won't turn out how it's supposed to. So I took a little video for you because it made me think about making food. And so I want to show you a video of me making peanut butter and jelly, and we're going to decide why it's important that we do things in a certain order, in a certain sequence. So let's go ahead and watch that video. I'm going to share my screen with you, and here we go.
All right, hi boys and girls. I am here to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with you, and I've put all of the instructions on a card, and they're supposed to be in a certain order for things to make sense, is kind of what I'm thinking. So I want to see what'll happen if I mix these cards up a little bit. So I'm just going to kind of put them in whatever order I want and see how this goes. Let's see what happens. So my first card that I have here says, get 2 pieces of bread, peanut butter, jelly, and a knife. So I'm going to get started with that. I've already got those things out. I've got 2 pieces of bread, peanut butter, jelly, and my knife. All right. So far, so good. Now it says, squish the bread together to make a sandwich. Okay. Squish. All right. Spread peanut butter on 1 piece of bread. Okay. Let me open up my peanut butter, get some of that out. It smells delicious. And let me spread that on 1 piece of bread. Up that peanut butter. Now it says spread jelly on another piece of bread. Okay, so I'm going to turn this over and put my jelly on. Let me wipe off this extra peanut butter. All right. Jelly, jelly, jelly. Spread, spread, spread it. Spread it, spread it, spread it. All right. Well, those were all of my cards. This is the last one. I just spread the jelly on. So now I should have my sandwich if everything went to plan. Let's take a look. Oof. Oh, it's so messy. Something didn't work right.
All right, friends. So as you can see in that video, when I don't follow the steps in the right order, I don't make the right thing. That sandwich was all backwards and the peanut butter and jelly was on the outside because I mixed up the steps. So it's the same thing when we read a book. We want to remember what order things happen so that the book makes sense to us. If we get things confused, the story starts to fall apart and it doesn't really make sense from beginning to end. Just like my sandwich doesn't look right and probably won't taste right now. So with that in mind, we're going to take a look at Tacky the Penguin again. And today while we're reading, we're going to think about what happens first, then, and next. And we're going to put our events all in order until the end of the book. So I'm going to play a little bit of the book, and then we're going to stop and think about what we noticed so far, and then play a little bit more so that we can kind of keep track of what's happening. I like to do that strategy when I read a book because I don't have to remember so much all at once. I can chunk my text. Chunk means to break it into smaller parts. So I break it into like the beginning, what happened in the beginning, break it into the middle, what events happened in the middle, and to the end, what happened in the end. If I can remember those chunks, it's easier to do the whole story. So let's take a look at the beginning of Tacky the Penguin.
Tacky the Penguin. Written by Helen Lester, illustrated by Lynn Munsinger. There once lived a penguin whose home was a nice, icy land he shared with his companions. His companions were named Goodly, Lovely, Angel, Neatly, and Perfect. His name was Tacky. Tacky was an odd bird. Every day, Goodly, Lovely, Angel, Neatly, and Perfect greeted each other quietly and politely. Tacky greeted them with a hearty slap on the back and a loud, "What's happening?" Goodly, Lovely, Angel, Neatly, and Perfect always marched 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Tacky always marched 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 6, 0, 2.5, 0. His companions were graceful divers. Tacky liked to do splashy cannonballs. Goodly, Lovely, Angel, Neatly, and Perfect always sang pretty songs like Sunrise on the Iceberg. Tacky always sang songs like How many toes does a fish have? Tacky was an odd bird. One day the penguins heard the thump, thump, thump of feet in the distance. This could mean only one thing. Hunters had come. They came with maps and traps and rocks and locks, and they were rough and tough as the thump, thump, thump drew closer.
All right. So my friends, I want us to think about so far what happened in the story because this is just the beginning part of it. The first thing that I remember the author telling me is that Tacky was an odd bird. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on my sequence of events as number 1 because it's the very first thing in the book. Now, I'm going to need your help deciding what happens next. So I have 2 things up here, and let's think which happened first. Tacky and his companions heard thumping in the distance, or Tacky did everything different than his companions. Which thing happened first? Yeah, Tacky did everything different than his companions. So he talks about how he didn't march like them and he didn't dive like them. He was different from them. So I'm going to put that next for number 2. And then after that is when they heard the thumping in the distance. So that's going to be number 3. Let's add that to my event. Number 2. Number 3. Great. We're ready to keep thinking. So make sure you're listening to the middle part and deciding what order these events happen.
hear the growly voices drew closer. The penguins could hear the growly voices chanting. We're gonna catch some pretty penguins and we'll march them with a switch. And we'll sell them for $1 and get rich, rich, rich. Goodly, lovely, angel, neatly and perfect ran away in fright. They hid behind a block of ice. Tacky stood alone. The hunters marched right up to him, chanting, we're going to catch some pretty penguins and we'll march them with a switch. And we'll sell them for $1 and get rich, rich, rich. What's happening? Blared Tacky, giving one hunter an especially hearty slap on the back.
Okay, so my friends, we had finished off where Tacky and his companions heard thumping in the distance. Do you remember what that noise was? Yeah, what happened next? I agree, the hunters came, right? That noise was the hunters. So on here, I have some events, and the hunters came as one of them. So I'm going to put that next because I remember that happened after the thumping. Now, let's think of what happened after the hunters came. Did the penguins hide behind a block of ice, or did Tacky stand alone with the hunters? Which happened first? Yeah, the other penguins hid, and because they had hid, that made Tacky have to stand alone with the hunters. That sounds really scary. I hope he's going to be okay. So let's add that in. The penguins hid, and Tacky stood alone with the hunters. All right, we're getting into the last part of our book. So now this is where we're going to start to see how everything works out. So let's pay attention and see what happens next.
They growled, we're hunting for penguins. That's what's happening. Penguins? Said Tacky. Do you mean those birds that march neatly in a row? And he marched. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 6, 0, 2.5, 0. The hunters looked puzzled. Do you mean those birds that dive so gracefully? Tacky asked. And he did a splashy cannonball. The hunters looked wet. Do you mean those birds that sing such pretty songs? Tacky began to sing, and from behind the block of ice came the voices of his companions, all singing as loudly and dreadfully as they could. How many toes does a fish have? And how many wings on a cow? I wonder, yep, I wonder. The hunters could not stand the horrible singing. This could not be the land of the pretty penguins. They ran away with their hands clasped tightly over their ears, leaving behind their maps and traps and rocks and locks, and not looking at all rough and tough. Goodly, lovely, angel, neatly and perfect hugged Tacky. Tacky was an odd bird, but a very nice bird to have around.
Great. Okay, so that was the end of the book. Let's review what we said happened so far so we can think about what comes next. So first I have Tacky was an odd bird. Tacky did everything different than his companions. Tacky and his companions heard thumping in the distance. The hunters came. The penguins hid behind a block of ice. Tacky stood alone with the hunters. So right now Tacky is alone. The other penguins are hiding. What does Tacky do? Let's think. Yeah. So I'm remembering that Tacky did some of the silly things that we remember from the beginning. So he showed the hunters how he marched, he showed them his cannonball, and he sang them a song. So he knew that the hunters were looking for these magical penguins, and he showed them what kind of penguin he was. So let's think what happens next after that. We have two options. The hunters ran away, or the penguins joined in and helped Tacky sing his song. So which thing happened first? Yeah, the other penguins came out from hiding and they tried to do the same thing that Tacky was doing. So they joined in and were singing his song. And then because of that, the hunters decided this is not what they were looking for and they ran away for the end. Great. Let's put those up. That's pretty cool that Tacky was able to be unique. And because he was unique, he saved the day. And all of his friends started to appreciate him for being unique because they realized that it saved them from all the hunters. It was a really good ending. So I want to remind you that our target today is I can decide the sequence of events in a text. And that means we're deciding what order things happen. So today in Google Classroom, you're going to have an assignment that does the same. And I want to show you what it looks like so you know how to do it when you get there. So I'm going to share my screen with you one last time. And this time we're going to look at our assignment for today. So when you get into the assignment, it's going to look like this. And I've already put in the first event. And if you look, these are numbered. So I have number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I want to make sure that I put these in order across and then go down the next row, all the way across, down the next row and across, just like how I would read a book. So I want to click these and I'm going to drag them into the boxes that I want to put them in for the right order. So right now, if I know Tacky was an odd bird was the first thing, I have to think of the second thing. And I remember that Tacky did everything different than his companions. So I'm going to look for the one that says that right here. And then look, when I do it, I just click it and it turns blue. And then while I'm still holding it, I can move it all the way to here. Okay, so I have to hold down while I move it. Your job is to go ahead and drag the rest of the sentences into the correct box so that you can put them in order so you can retell the story. So again, you're going to click them and move them to put them where they belong until they get all the way to number 9. So you might want to maybe put one down, and then if you decide, oh, you know what, that doesn't belong there, you can switch it and move them until everything's just right. Okay, so my friends, as always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. But you've got the directions, you've heard the story, you have all the tools to be really successful. So do your best work, try really hard, and I can't wait to see what you come up with. Bye, first graders.